What I have seen in many cases is this. Women first begin feeling a powerful love when they first see the model of car. What I hear is that if the car is a very expensive one, they begin feeling a very powerful love. If the car is a very expensive model, that love spreads everywhere. If one's clothes are very expensive, if one has been to a good school, if one's father is rich, then that love dazzles them and they become ready to do anything. That is what I hear. Then at a later time, the person says that his father has gone bankrupt and that he is also going bust because of the economic crisis. A light then goes out in the woman's head, and that love vanishes instantaneously. All that remains is someone she now hates, and the love turns into disgust and anger. This is a punishment bestowed by Allah. It is a great humiliation. But if one loves for Allah's sake, it makes no difference if one loses one's job or one's factory. If such things come, one regards them as blessings from Allah. And if they go, one regards them as also being for the best, as coming from Allah, and it has no impact on one. But children are wrongly educated from a very early age. I see mothers whose daughters' hands have been sewed by doctors or engineers and who have made their daughters marry them against their will. It is embarrassing even to speak of. If they said that they married their daughters off in that way because nobody with taqwa, no rational people had wanted to marry them, then there would be a kind of logic in that. It would still be wrong because if you see a rational person, you will give your daughter to him. But they talk about doctors and engineers, people who will bring in good money with enormous pride and vanity. And many of the people who hear them will appreciate the sentiment and say how right they are. This is terrible disgrace, something really ugly. It means treating that young girl like a slave, and that is totally unacceptable. Because that is how young girls are always brought up. Most of them tend to want such wealthy people for their own children. It makes no difference to them if the person is flawed or psychopathic. That spouse may beat, swear at, and humiliate their child, and all they say is that he is her husband and it is quite normal for him to beat her. The man may throw their daughter out on the street, but they still welcome him back, saying there must have been a misunderstanding, and so the disgrace continues. So many women are oppressed but still encouraged by their families and friends to put up with these people, even though they disgust them, because they are their husband and the father of their children. They say they have to put up with it. That is all perfectly normal, and that one of their friends puts up with the same treatment, and she should take that person as a role model. They say her own father is the same and that she used to put up with him. In other words, some people give their children a totally warped education. These things are wrong. True love for the sake of Allah, burns like a flame in a woman's heart, gives ineffable delight, and is truly lovely for the woman. It is an intense feeling that also has a powerful effect on the man. It is an enormous pleasure. But instead of that true delight, some people prefer to go for material things and drown in that suffering and filth. They have to stay with someone who disgusts them and suffer for the rest of their lives. Because such men hate moral virtue, hate strength of character, constantly lie and insult the woman, impugning her honor, making their lack of love perfectly clear from their words and facial expression, all their love being placed in their goods and possessions. They grow proud and obstinate and do not recognize the woman's worth. So many fine women waste their lives in this way, and their children. I have known many fine women, but when I have seen them again years later, their hands and faces are all worn, and they are in a terrible state. Regret has caused them to lose all their humanity. They've been ruined, and their youth has been squandered in that way. That precious quality in their souls disappears, and that depth of soul of theirs is wasted, and that is a terrible shame. That is why the finest measure is to seek love in harmony with the measure set by Allah, to seek that delightful manifestation of Allah, to be genuine and honest, and to fear and love Allah. One must know that the deep delight and astounding pleasure this imparts will be bestowed as a blessing from Allah. There is a profound miracle unique to Muslims, unique to those who truly fear Allah. Few people are aware of it. And they live within this scourge because they are unaware of it. If they knew about it, they might not go down that other path for all the world. If they knew what a delight and joy living with true faith was, they would attach no importance to factories or cars or anything else. But they are unaware of it.
Daha ilk gece bir nefret oluşuyor. İlk gece. Ama ayıp olmasın gibisinden.
Hatred appears on the first night, the very first night. But in order to avoid embarrassment, and because there is now an economic alliance, because the bride and the groom's families are wealthy, they are unwilling to bring the family business down. In other words, they have founded a company rather than embarked on a marriage. They first ask, and I have seen this myself, whether the other person has his own home and a car, as if they are setting up a business partnership. What kind of love or conception is that? How much money do you earn? That is the first thing they ask. They get right down to business after learning someone's surname. What has that to do with marriage? This business, this personal gain, this idea of personal advantage. It is a terrible thing. And what kind of love can there be in it?
Ne kadar aşağılayıcı bir şey ve sıkıcı ve rahatsız edici bir şey.
I see it sometimes. They may pretend to be laughing and joyful. They may seem to smile, but how embarrassing and degrading it is to do that and play such games for the sake of money. Since it is impossible to deceive someone who knows that they are not really loved, it means a lifetime of sorrow. What need is there for such a parody, for such a disgrace? A person is loved for the sake of Allah. They are loved as a manifestation of Allah, and there is a great and profound delight in that. It is a force that never ends. Allah has bestowed such a depth on almost all women. In other words, if a woman is given this, meaning passion, love, depth and loyalty, she will turn into an unbelievable entity. That woman will disappear to be replaced by a superhuman entity. All that beauty, depth and passion in her soul begin coming to the surface. It will treat her, and her hormones will work fine, and her body will return to normal. Her brain will resume functioning normally. Her skin will improve, her eyes will be brighter, and her speech will improve. It will affect her hair. She will become a totally different person. The reason why most women lose their beauty and faith is psychological. Lack of true love inflicts terrible damage on a woman. For example, I see young women who look very old. That stems from suffering and from lack of love. Love makes a woman beautiful, it beautifies her passion, but they collapse unbelievably fast when it is absent. For example, a beautiful young girl gets married. When I see her in a couple of years' time, she is an old woman. She has collapsed and been totally ruined. The reason is that lack of love has damaged the cells of her body. Because the body cells are created together with love. Even the eyes understand about love. The eye assumes a totally different form in the presence of love. One's voice becomes totally different. The voice of someone who loves is very different to that of someone who doesn't. The kind of music someone who loves enjoys is very different to that which pleases someone who doesn't. Everything is different. All the body's functions are affected. That applies to both men and women. The truth of the matter is that there is a huge stage play going on. There are many players and various plays are being acted out. This is not right. But the curtain will be brought down in the time of Hazret Mehdi ﷺ in the end times, and people will become real human beings, will approach one another with real love, and will exhibit true moral virtue and show their real faces. The masks will all be lifted. Most people are wandering around in masks these days. But these masks will be lifted. People are unhappy because of these masks. When I go out, I see how most people are unsmiling and unhappy because they just see masks. People like real people. People like genuine faces. Masks make people really uneasy. Falsity makes people uneasy.